Hi everyone. Today I just wanted to give a few quick thoughts about the debate on intersectionality on Debug Your Brains channel between Catherine Klein and George Martin, aka Carnism Debunked. I watched most of it. I thought it was interesting. I think the main problems that they were both operating under different definitions of intersectionality. I think Catherine's definition was that intersectionality means the rejection of all oppression, basically recognizing all forms of oppression, like wherever and however they occur, right? And the ways that they intersect as well, because of course it's called intersectionality, and rejecting all of them. It's an anti-oppression, an anti-discrimination ideology of philosophy, And I think conceptually, I think theoretically everyone can get behind that. I think where we get hung up as vegans is whether veganism should include, anti-racism or feminism or stuff like that, like whether that should be part of the vegan movement. Because I think personally, if you're a vegan, I think it's consistent to also be against sexism and against racism and against classism and all of these other forms of oppression. I think that's consistent. I think it's like if we care about sentient beings, then we care about all sentient beings, right? But veganism specifically is a movement for non-human animals. And we fight against the way that they are specifically oppressed. And there are other movements for the ways that humans are oppressed. And I do think they're all important, but I think every movement should be its own thing. So sure, you can be part of several movements, but every movement should have its own goals, And the main question was, is intersectionality bad or good for veganism, or neutral, I guess? And I would say it depends. I think theoretically, intersectionality is just consistency. It's just being anti-oppression, period. And I think a lot of people, like a lot of vegans already are that, but they don't label themselves intersectional. I don't think it's necessary to call yourself an intersectionalist. That's not really a thing anyway. There's like intersectional ways to look at things. Also, I should note that I'm not incredibly acquainted with intersectionality. Like, I took one course about intersectionality in college. It was quite interesting, but I do think the main problem with intersectionality and intersectional leftists in general is that they have this huge blind spot for animals. They don't see animals as oppressed, they don't see them as victims because they're still carnists, they're still speciesist, right? But I don't think that's a problem with the concept or the idea of intersectionality. I think that's the problem with the people that are applying it, who just have a blind spot for that and who don't realize that they're inconsistently applying their morals. Ideally, intersectional leftists would be vegan. Ideally everyone would be vegan, obviously. I think, every feminist should be vegan, every anti-racist should be vegan, every anti-capitalist should be vegan, and vegans should be anti-racist and feminist, individually, but each movement is separate. And I think it's important to understand that. What sucks about, intersectional leftists that talk about veganism is that they often, they accuse us of being, a white privileged movement, right? They sometimes accuse us of being classist, that veganism is like a classist thing, it's for the rich, it's for the privileged. And it's not true, it's just being against the exploitation of animals. There's nothing classist or privileged about that. But I personally think that's a problem with those specific people rather than the idea and the theory of intersectionality. There's a difference between the theory of something and how it is applied. And in this case, I definitely say the way intersectionality is applied is harmful to the vegan movement. Intersectional leftists should recognize oppression when they see it. They should recognize oppression when it happens to animals as well, but they often do not, and that is just a blind spot for them. So on the question, is intersectionality good or bad? I think it is a useful theory, especially when it comes to intersections, forms of oppression, for example, when racism and classism intersect, or when racism and gender intersect, and those forms of discrimination. It's definitely useful to have that as a term to describe these phenomena, and I guess when applied correctly, it leads to a more holistic approach to social justice and just justice issues in general. Veganism should definitely be included too. Yeah, and those are kind of my quick thoughts on the debate, just off the top of my head. Let me know in the comments what you thought of the debate, or like if you have any thoughts on intersectionality. I definitely encourage you to watch Soytheist's video on this, which I will link in the description. I think it's an interesting topic. I don't think we should get hung up on it though, because veganism is a movement for animals, and it has to be a movement for animals because otherwise no one will speak up for the animals. We should stand strong in what we're fighting for, and there are other movements to deal with other causes, and it's like you can be part of several movements and that's fine, but every movement is separate to me. I think we can all agree that, oppression is bad. And that's pretty much it. Quick video for today, but let me know what you thought.